Okay, you're on the air.
Here we are in a Catalina 34. We're measuring it for a Ustack system. There are several things that are a little tricky maybe with measuring these. Not tricky, but you have to know how the person that's going to sew it is going to interpret it. The first thing that we do is figure out where the batten is going to go across the sail. Looking down the sail, the front end is kind of the critical point. We don't want to put our batten up here. Some of the systems, they put the batten up at the top of the stack and you have this huge wedge of cloth. What we do is put the batten a little lower, somewhere in here, and then taper our center flap to cover the stack. So on this cover, it makes sense to put the batten about right here, to my eye. So we use that as our first measurement point. Measuring from the center line of the boom up to that point. On this boat, it's 18 inches. So that will be our A measurement. The second measurement we're going to take is the length of this thing. And that measurement point is right at sort of the back edge of the mast and forward edge of the stacked sail. So right about here, we measure back to the clew. And in the back end, at the clew, we want to measure right just past the clew. A good point back here, right about, maybe leave an inch overlap. If the topping lift were tighter in here, we'd want to be even tighter, but we have a little room here, so we can come back, maybe even 2 inches past there, somewhere right in here. And then the next kind of tricky measurement is the height of the aft end of this thing. You don't want to measure it right back here where there's no sail. I come up to where the first reef is, where there's a little more sail. Measure it up again from the center of the boom. Maybe center of the boom here up. The back end, this one needs to probably be about this high. So that's 14 inches right to there. And then of course we're going to add a center flap, two flaps, the center piece, that will add about 8 inches to the overall diameter. But 14 inches looks like about a good number for this sail cover. One other thing to keep in mind when taking these two first measurements is this guy's sail is fairly old. If you were going to get a new sail in the next few years, you obviously want to add a little room in there for it. But that's sort of your judgment call. A couple more measurements we take. The offset aft, these covers just look nicer when there's a little bit of an angle here. I don't think a huge angle. What we do on a cover like this is 2 or 3 inches. I'd probably go 3 inches. Again, because there's plenty of room here. You can come 3 inches back, still be able to attach the back end here if you needed to. The taper. The next set of measurements has to do with this tapered center flap. So we want to start with our point here where this is where our batten is going to be. So we want to measure up for the height of this front of the flap. On this one it's about 2 feet. We need to figure out how far to come back. I usually go pretty far back, get into to where the sail is settled down. So about 3.5 feet here. And then again, the last measurement that has to do with that is how wide the center flap is here. We decided to go 4 inches on each side of the back. We'll probably go 5 inches here, so about a 10-inch center section. The last measurement on that center flap is the headboard width. That's pretty straightforward. We bring it out to about 7 inches to give this some room, and the cover will taper like this to allow for the headboard. And then on the front flap, we got to remember where this plane is, essentially where the front of our battens are going to be, where we use for the measurement point for the overall length. We come from that point to the other side and take a measurement. Being aware if there's a ring on the mast that's going to be in the way. You know, this one's about 2 feet. Same point on the other side. The other thing is we'll make a note of where this is so that we'll put a chafe protection in there. If we had just one layer of Cimbrella here, this would wear through in, you know, about a week. There are no winches. If there were winches on the mast, we'd make a note of that, but this is fairly clean. This is the only major chafe point. And looking at the back end, the next set of measurements we need to take are, one is we leave the back end of the cover open. You know, I usually do about a foot just to give it some room to relax as it's coming back. A foot or 18 inches. We also have to look at where these reefs are. This sail only has one reef. We measure from the point, the same aft point where we decided to end the cover, measure that forward to the center of the reef ring. So this is 2 feet 7. And we repeat that for any other reefs. If this reef ended up back here, if it were a low reef, we could probably just keep, what we normally would do is just leave the bottom open, you know, from the clew aft or forward to about here, and just tie the reef through the opening in the bottom, rather than cutting slits in it. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.